Looking to be more productive and jump those hurdles of change and challenge easier? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Thrive in Life with your hosts, Zaheen Nanji.
Hello and welcome to the Thrive in Life show. I'm your host, Zaheen Nanji. I've decided to do a two-part series on how to deal with difficult people. So the first part, which is going to be episode number 42, can be found as well on my website at zaheennanji.com/TIL. That's T as in Tom, I as in India, L as in London, / 42. And the second part will be zaheennanji.com/TIL / 43. If you would rather read, I have actually given you a freebie, and that's a download that you'll find at the links that I mentioned earlier. You'll also find the link in the show notes. And if you're watching this on YouTube, look in the description below and you'll find the link to get the download. If you're listening on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, again, you can get the freebie at the links that I mentioned earlier, zaheennanji.com /TIL / 42. So in this first part, we will go through 4 kinds of individuals that you want to learn how to be around, I guess. And the second part, we will go through 4 separate kinds of individuals, again, that you want to learn how to be around, or just even maybe completely avoid if they're being very difficult. But we'll go through each one. But first, let me just give you a good introduction as to, we think other people are difficult, but sometimes we don't realize that we need to look at ourselves as well to find out if we are being difficult. So let's get started. All right. So the question to you is, are you a difficult person? Everyone is difficult at some point in their lives. And of course, we have all dealt with plenty of difficult individuals, both at our jobs or even customers that come into the business that you may own, or even in your personal lives, like your family members or cousins or aunts and uncles, whatever it may be, even grandparents. But when being difficult becomes a lifestyle instead of a once in a while thing, then you know what? It's time to take a deeper look. So like I mentioned before, if you'd rather read, then you can get the freebie. And you see the cover here on the slide. So for those of you listening as a podcast, you can look at the image when you go to my website. You can download the report at zaheennanji.com /TIL / 42, 42. So if you're unsure, if you're a difficult person, here are a few ways to detect your difficultness. Number 1, you feel excluded. If you feel as if you have no group of friends or you don't fit in with your coworkers, you know what? It can be an awful feeling. And another thing could be that you feel as if you're the last one to find out, or you always seem to be the odd man out or the odd woman out. In this case, you need to take a look at your behavior when you're with coworkers or friends. Often, people will simply avoid a difficult person rather than giving them feedback. So you may want to go searching for it, whether the reason that you're being excluded is any of the above. The second reason that you could be looked at as a difficult individual is your self-worth is low. So when things don't work out the way you would like to, it can actually take a toll on your self-esteem. So it's possible that the way you were raised had an effect on how you see yourself. And the third reason could be that you feel negative. Everyone has got bad days, right? But if you always find things to complain about, others will feel the need to distance themselves from you. So think about the way you say things. If you're mostly negative, learn to acknowledge those negative thoughts, but immediately flip them into something positive. And as I go through this, you'll understand what it means to flip to something positive. As well, there's so many books out there that you can get on how to change your thoughts from negative to positive. So if you find that you're always negative, you need to start looking. So in part 1, we are going to discuss how to handle a flake, that's F-L-A-K-E, and then a fake, that's F-A-K-E, a bully, and a complainer. So let's start with how to handle a flake, F-L-A-K-E. What is a flake? Well, flakes are a mystery to most of us. They will not return your phone calls. They won't answer any messages or emails. And more often than not, they cancel plans at the last minute. Most of the flakes out there are truly likable people who seem trustworthy until they flake. Then they lose business, friendships, relationships in abundance, and their actions still don't change. They think that it's not them, it's someone else. I'm sure you've experienced a flaky behavior from someone in your life. You know, some examples could be being unable to deliver on promises, being late to appointments or even meetings, not showing up at all without notice, taking advantage of someone else's kindness without so much as a thank you. A flaky person doesn't mean to hurt others, but their actions cause a great deal of harm. And therefore, it doesn't take too many accountants before you give up on the flake. Labeling them as unreliable and untrustworthy. So sometimes, you know, how you know someone, and you know, someone may be coming to your mind right now as I'm going through this description and examples, and you may think, oh, so-and-so is a flake because they're unreliable and untrustworthy. Well, that's right. But so what do? You know, most of the time we just say they're just like that, and we don't give them feedback, or even we find that they do not answer, that you don't want to be around them. But there are two ways that you can deal with a flake without feeling like you are the one or the only one sacrificing. So the first one is patience is a virtue. You know, if your flaky friend is being completely irresponsible and disrespectful, explain to them that you're giving them just one more chance to stick to the plans that you both made, or the relationship will have to come to an end. So this will make them think, right? Why is this happening? And you then, if they ask for feedback, you'll want to give them that feedback that this is always the problem. You need to change this behavior. And the second way to deal with a flake is, you know, strive to become a role model for the flake individual. Because even adults need models that they want to look up to. So impart the importance of finishing what you start and doing what you say you'll do when you've said you'll do it. This will teach them integrity, which is a trait honestly lacking in today's society. Now we'll go to how to handle a fake person. Wouldn't it be awesome if every person we met were genuinely and perfectly comfortable and confident in their own skin? Unfortunately, many of us try to be the person they think others would want them to be. And this stems from a deep need for social acceptance. That they feel their own personality can't provide. Often fakeness actually is a survival skill that a lot of people have learned in order to protect themselves from getting close to anyone. And if they never truly reveal who they are, then they'll never get hurt. Having someone like this in your life can be difficult, especially if you suspect that under all that fakeness, there is a genuinely likable person. So here are a few tips on how to handle a fake person that will help you navigate somewhat challenging waters. Don't react emotionally to the fake behavior from your friend. Overreacting may be the feedback the person is seeking. So if the fake person is telling lies and you know the truth, explain that you know the truth and that you feel that they're lying. But do so without any anger or judgment. So just genuinely tell them, you know what? I know that isn't the truth. That's actually a lie, and you keep on saying that, or you do this usually. And I know what the truth is. So let's stop lying and just seek out the truth. Let the person know that they don't have to be anyone but who they truly are. And this can help them feel safer to be who they are instead of someone they think that you want them to be. And if nothing else seems to work, you may have to just limit your time with the fake person, or unfortunately, eliminate them from your life altogether. I know it's a hard decision to make, but maybe necessary to protect your own mental health. If you limit the time you spend with them, you limit the aggravation that you can cause yourself. And if you're forced to be social with them, so if you're forced to be around them, then try to keep your distance and just keep communications polite and short. All right, let's move on to how to handle a complainer. The constant negativity that a chronic complainer exudes can be an energy suck of the worst kind, especially for emotionally sensitive people. Because being around someone that negative and who's constantly complaining can often make one physically and mentally tired and emotionally worn out. I'm sure you've been around someone who complains incessantly, and haven't you told yourself, oh my God, I hope they stop, or I wish they would just keep quiet. I'm not going to use any curse words here, but I'm sure you know what I mean. And you're just mentally tired. You have your own issues, and now you have this other person who keeps on complaining about theirs. And they especially love it when they're complaining, and negativity can actually get you cranky, because you know the saying, misery loves company. So if you find yourself having to be around a chronic complainer, here are a few tips to help you endure. Try to understand where they're coming from. It may surprise you to learn that most people who are chronic complainers don't even view themselves as being overly negative. So just try to understand where they're coming from. Find out what their intent is behind the complaining. And then, when I understand that, I kind of help them reframe it by saying, have you looked at it from this point of view? And then I just leave it. And if they still don't get it, then I just move on and just stop. And I just listen, which I'll explain, further as to what I mean here. So when you try to understand where they're coming from, know that they see themselves as always being the one to struggle, always being the one to get the short end of the stick. And because of this view that they hold, they tend to have a negative outlook in the world and in life in general. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about that until they themselves see that. So don't attempt to challenge their negativity. If you try to tell a chronic complainer that things aren't as bad as they think, or suggest that they might be overreacting, they'll say you're wrong and come up with an additional dozen reasons why their life is horrible. So earlier I said maybe try to reframe it. And if you find that even after reframing it to a positive spin, they still don't see it, then just let it go. Most chronically negative people simply want to have their experiences validated. So if you can provide that validation and empathy, you'll find that it's easier to redirect their attention to something that's not one of their many problems. Avoid offering advice. Even if your advice would solve the problem, that's not really what they want. That's why they keep complaining. If you take away their reality of the hardships they've gone through by offering a solution, they'll only come up with reasons why they can't take your advice. And this can be incredibly frustrating to those who care about a complainer, right? So it's best to learn that your advice won't be valued and should be kept to yourself. In the long run, it's best for your own mental and emotional health to try to eliminate chronically negative people from your life altogether. But if you can't, just remember to not allow yourself to soak up that negativity. I have come across chronic complainers, and there are times that I just imagine this bubble around me, that the negativity that they are exuding is bouncing back, not to them, but is bouncing back, like if I'm in a room, to the walls. And if I'm outside in nature, then just bouncing back to the sun or something like that. This way I am keeping my bubble safe. The next one, and the last one, is how to handle a bully. It'd be nice to think that once you're out of school, you'd be done with bullies for the rest of your life. But unfortunately, that can be far from the truth. As anyone who's ever had a bullying boss, coworker, or friend can attest, that it still continues on. We all know that bullying, what it looks like as a kid. It's name calling, pushing, meanness, just to name a few. But how do you know that someone is an adult bully? Often, in the name of security and keeping the peace, we may let the bullying just roll off our back. But if someone is a bully, they may take actions such as ignoring you. This is a form of disrespect, and it aims to control you by keeping you guessing and never knowing what comes next. You may request something or ask a question and you don't get a response. So if you find that that's happening a lot, then that's a form of bullying. The next action that they would take is being late or not showing up at all. And that's like a flake, isn't it? But it's another form of disrespect, but it can sometimes have more serious consequences. So if they're constantly, when you call a meeting, they're constantly being late and they're not showing up, that is being a flake, but it's also a form of bullying because they're not showing respect to everyone else's time. They start rumors about you. So the bully that starts untrue rumors is seeking to sabotage you and your reputation. And seeing you react or even overreact to hearing the lies that are told about yourself is what they thrive on. So if you find that they're always doing that about you, then that's a bully. If they show passive aggressive behavior, like backwards compliments, deliberate procrastination, having to have the last word, even though they know that you're right, but no, they have to put in that last word, and they come out as being aggressive sometimes too. So these are all examples of what a bully might exhibit. Now, these are only a few examples, but how do you handle a situation that is actually the key? So let me repeat that. How you handle each situation is the key to taking away the bully's power. So first and foremost, you have to look at yourself. If you find yourself being bullied a lot as an adult, then take a closer look at whether you're playing the victim. Now, sometimes due to your upbringing or the experiences that you've had as a child or a teenager, you may not even realize that you're doing it, but often a bully will instinctively aim for the person who already has a victim mentality. If that's you, then you really need to learn to stand up for yourself and become more assertive in the face of the bully. And sometimes even when you stand up for yourself and become assertive, they may turn around and do something else. Well, this is when you know that you've done enough. Now you need to get outside help, not for you, but for the both of you. So if you're at work, and I know that workplace bullying occurs quite a bit, then you need to get in your supervisor or your manager involved, or even HR. If all else fails, simply separate yourself from the bully. But I know if you're in the same office working, that could be hard. But then again, if you've stood up to them and nothing's working, you need to get HR involved or your supervisor or manager. So if separating from them is difficult to accomplish, then be creative and try to create space between you and the bully. The less you're around them, the less harm that they can do. Remember, most bullies end up that way because they themselves have low self-esteem and a fragile sense of self-worth. So they pick on people who will give them satisfaction as to, yes, no, I do have self-esteem, but they don't. So by asserting yourself, you take away their power, and maybe, just maybe, you'll show them that they don't have to be that way. All right, so we've come to the end of part 1, but I know you are curious as to what you'll learn in part 2, which will be at zaheennanji.com/TIL/43. TIL stands for Thrive in Life. So in part 2, we're going to discuss how to handle an unpredictable person, an indecisive person, a user, and a know-it-all. Very good stuff. Again, if you want to download the report, you can go to zaheennanji.com/TIL/42, and you'll find the report there to download. Okay, until next time. Hopefully, if you like what you've heard, I would love it if you put a review. If you're listening on iTunes, you can put a review on iTunes. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's fine as well. You can put a comment on YouTube, or you can ask me questions as well. I will see you next time, and go make your life count, because this is all about thriving in life. Bye now.
Thanks so much for listening to Thrive in Life with your hosts, Zaheen Nanji. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit ZaheenNanji.com. That's ZAHEENNANJI.com. We'll catch you on the next episode of Thrive in Life.